The world was burning, not in fire, but in fear. Once again, missiles etched lines of vengeance across Middle Eastern skies. Israel had struck first, with precision, fury, and the conviction of a state both threatened and ready to retaliate. Iran responded with force, drones, declarations, and the promise of divine justice. In the echo chamber of global power, leaders scrambled to control the narrative. They spun their stories while ordinary lives vanished into smoke. The world watched, paralyzed. Diplomats issued cautious statements. Markets trembled. War analysts filled the airwaves with maps, projections, and timelines, but amidst the noise, a deeper silence roared. The silence of the forgotten, the powerless, the periphery. And it was from that periphery, from the cracked earth of a landlocked nation in West Africa, that the silence was broken, not by a superpower, not by a general, but by a soldier-turned-president named Ibrahim Traoré. In the capital of Burkina Faso, the air wasn't thick with smoke, but with something heavier, knowing. The kind that doesn't come from intelligence briefings, but from history. The kind that lives in the marrow of post-colonial nations that have buried too many of their young in wars they didn't start. President Traoré sat alone before dawn, not in a war room, but in a modest chamber lit by a flickering screen. He watched. Bombs fall, headlines scroll. World leaders posture like giants while the people beneath them disappeared into debris. But Traoré wasn't just watching, he was feeling. And then he was deciding. He had no missiles. He owed no allegiance. But he had something to say. Silence is no longer an option. That's how he began. No flag behind him, no military parade, no diplomat-approved script. Just a man in a wooden chair, his voice steady, his eyes unwavering, his message terrifying in its clarity. The world today balances on the edge of fire, he said, and those who can stop it are too proud to admit they lit the match. He didn't blame one side, he blamed all sides. He dismantled the illusion of defense, the addiction to retaliation, the sickness of geopolitics where the rich wage war and the poor bury the bodies. And then, he asked the question that sliced through every newsroom and foreign ministry. When did humanity become your enemy? Traoré's words weren't just a condemnation. They were a declaration that Africa would no longer be silent as superpowers decided its fate behind closed doors. He reminded the world that war doesn't respect borders, that every airstrike in the Middle East creates hunger in West Africa, that every drone strike carries the cost of broken futures, even in lands untouched by the conflict. We do not have nuclear weapons, he said, but we have memories. Memories of being used, abandoned, and told to stay silent, while others played chess with the bones of the innocent. This time he refused. Governments condemned his speech. Western powers called it irresponsible. Both Israeli and Iranian officials accused him of bias, ironically proving his point. Because truth is dangerous when no one owns it. But the people heard something else. In Kenya, in Colombia, in Indonesia. Students painted his words on campus walls. Journalists replayed his speech in Beirut and Brussels. African youth, long trained to believe their voice held no global weight, stood taller, because one of their own had spoken, not like a politician, but like a witness, like a brother, like a man who had seen too much to stay quiet. Traoré's speech didn't stop the war. Missiles still flew. Leaders still postured. But something shifted. Suddenly the story wasn't just about Iran and Israel. It was about all of us. About the invisible cost of conflict. About the forgotten children, the broken economies, and the slow violence of silence. And the man who delivered that message didn't do it from a throne. He did it from the margins, which made it impossible to ignore. Within days, the African Union convened an emergency session, not out of formality but to hear him. Other presidents followed. Ceasefires were urged. Even rivals began to talk, not because they feared Traoré but because they believed him. When asked why he spoke, knowing the risks, he answered simply, They call it bravery. I call it survival. Silence has never saved us. And this time, the world needed to remember. Africa sees everything, and we remember everything. Ibrahim Traoré didn't declare war. He declared humanity. And in a world addicted to firepower, that may have been the most defiant act of all. He reminded us that dignity is not a luxury, that truth is not a Western export, that silence, no matter how diplomatic, is never neutral, and now, whether they liked it or not, the world had heard him, and this time it couldn't unhear him.